Thanks everybody for giving up an hour of your time and coming to join us on this webinar, which we're most excited about across the country to be launching our new Stress Lessons Tools for Resiliency, grade 9 to 12. And what we want to do is have this next hour be an opportunity to hear more about the guide, and then we are going to have time for our question and answer. We've got people from all across our wonderful country, and it has been people throughout the country that have helped to put this guide together, so it feels very national today. What I'd like to do is turn it over to Anne Lovegrove, who's our Director of Marketing and Development, and she's going to walk us through a few of the logistics, which she already has for those who have been on, but a few more to guide us through the next time together.
Thank you, Anne, and welcome everyone. We're really excited today to share with you our new resource.
Thank you, Anne, and welcome everyone. We're really excited today to share with you our new resource. So I get the fun part of providing you with a little bit of logistics. It is a webinar, and we obviously want to hear from you with respect to any questions that you may have. So if you could provide us with your questions through the chat option, which is on the bottom right corner of the screen. So you'll notice chat, again, if you could provide any questions that you have. And I do apologize, I know that some of you are saying that we're echoing. I believe you do have some participants that are now calling in through the 1-800 line, so I can't sort of shut off both lines. So I do apologize. Hopefully it's not going to be too bad. Anyways, if you could provide any questions that you have for any of our panel today, and at the end we have designated 15 minutes to answer those questions. If we're unable to answer them all, we will certainly follow up with an email. So again, don't use your hand up button, which is on the top. Please use the chat, which is just any questions you have, just type.
You're going to go to the next slide.
And I think that's it for now.
I'm going to continue. So again, welcome everyone. I'm just going to briefly sort of give some background and context to the
again, welcome everyone. I'm just going to briefly sort of give you some background and context to the Psychology Foundation of Canada, which I know that most of you who are participating in this webinar already know us. For those who don't, just again a little brief background for you. The Psychology Foundation of Canada, we've been around for over 40 years now, and our mission is really to raise confident kids into productive adults. And by doing so, we're providing practical evidence-based programs that really span across all developmental stages. So some of you are familiar with us with our Kids Have Stress 2 program, that we have that from basically kindergarten all the way up now to grade 12. We also have a Make the Connection in our Parenting for Life program, which really focuses more on children from 0 to 3. And we do have stress lessons and stress strategies. So not sure if you're familiar with all of our resources, but it's certainly resources that you can find on our website.
Okay, thanks Anne. Our technology working here. We'd like to move to the next slide. Anne, can you help just to get to the next slide for me, please? What we want to do is take you through what this webinar is all about. So the first place is we want to give you an overview and an introduction to the grade 9 to 12 resource and how it came to be and what some of the implications of it are. And then we want to take you to the next place of the details that are more included within it, and to have you also be part of our team looking at how can we take this resource out to the wider world, because we look at each of you as champions within your school jurisdictions. And we hope that with that, you'll be able to take it and call to us of how we can support you with whatever you need to make it happen. Next one, something's happening with our technology, but that's okay. We can take our deep breaths and be calm. Yeah, I think I'll have you handle the, seems to be a problem. So we've already heard from Anne Lovegrove about our logistics. Catherine Walensky, who is a project manager here with the Psychology Foundation, has worked very intensely with this whole development of the guide, and she's going to share with us an overview of it. Deanna Swift is a clinical psychologist who's been involved in the Kawartha Pine Ridge School Board and has also been very involved in the development of the guide, and we'll go into more detail about what it provides. And I, as the lead trainer, will get into some of the implementation of the guide so that when you walk away from today, you'll have a better sense of the whole, what's available to you. So at the end, we're going to leave ourselves some time for a Q&A. So certainly at that time, send us some of your questions. We'd rather it be done during that time just so we're not trying to juggle what questions come in as we go forward with the PowerPoint. So now I'm going to turn it over to Catherine. Deanna and I are going to check out here. So you only see one person.
If you could Hi, everyone. We are so delighted that you are here, and we're very excited that there is so much enthusiasm about this new resource. Just want to give you a little bit of background about why this resource. We decided to create it because we were receiving a lot of feedback from across the country saying, you know, we really need something for this age group. In fact, some people were using our grade 7 to 9 guide and adapting that for high schools, but there were some, you know, different developmental and social and emotional and academic challenges that are particular to grades 9 to 12. So we followed the lead from the community, and we did extensive consultations all across the country with educators, with educational leaders, with social workers, and as well as guidance counselors, parents, students, and listen to them about what were the most important issues and what were the most important approaches that they thought we should, you know, build our resource around. So we did a lot of consultation and came up with a framework and then put it all together. The program has been pilot tested, and we've already received a great deal of very positive feedback about it. Our goals for the resource are to provide a user-friendly, psychologically sound Canadian learning resource that's relevant to a range of curriculum requirements. Secondly, to provide students with the opportunities to develop skills and capacity for handling and harnessing stress and enhancing their well-being. So there's a very strong emphasis on skill building and capacity building in this resource. And thirdly, to help create healthy learning environments and looking beyond the classroom, looking at the school more broadly. Okay, the educational approach that we've taken with this resource is similar to the grade 7 to 9. It really focuses on building learning competencies and skills, and Deanna's going to talk a little bit more specifically about what those are. It follows a constructivist approach, and so the program invites teachers and students to work together to learn about stress and about the skills that are most helpful in coping and flourishing. The activities revolve around conversations between students about what matters to students and encourages the development of skills that can help them communicate better with both their peers and adults. So teachers really don't need to be experts in stress, and they don't even necessarily need to be that exemplary in managing stress in their own lives. But they can learn together with students through conversations and through activities. They're truly engaging for students. In terms of the curriculum connections, again, teachers are the facilitators here, and they're setting the stage for inquiry, working alongside students as they explore each topic. They're helping to create teachable moments. Just wondering why the slide isn't coming up here. Okay. Sorry, a little technical difficulties here. So it's all about teachable moments to introduce stress management strategies, and really it's about Tools for Resiliency has a lot of cross-curricular potential, and it relates directly to a range of curriculum areas in a variety of jurisdictions across Canada. And we've identified some of the health and well-being related curriculum connections on our website. So please do check those out. And we recognize, though, that you know, it's very specific in each province and territory, and that there are a range of curriculum renewals that are going on across the country. So that we've done we would actually like to ask for your help with making sure that we have as many of the connections noted as possible, and that's going to be an ongoing conversation. with all of our the people who we're collaborating with across the country to make sure we're as up to date and we know as much about the curriculum connections as possible. So in terms of the next slide is focusing on the elements of the program. It is a very comprehensive resource because we recognize that promoting the health and resiliency of young people requires more than just activities in the classroom. It has to be comprehensive, and it includes developing health literacy, addressing the social and physical environment of the school, and creating links with the broader community. That's why we've included components not only for teachers, but also for counselors, for administrators, and resources and tools that can be used individually with students as well as whole school ideas and approaches. And we also recognize that parents and caregivers are key partners in supporting and promoting resiliency among young people. So we've also created some resources specifically for parents and caregivers in terms of how they can help to support the growth of resiliency skills. The next, what I want to talk about next is just about the resource itself. And you will all be receiving a copy of it after this webinar. So the resource contains a series of lessons for teachers and beyond what I've already mentioned about the whole school and the parent. The bulk of it is for classroom teachers. And each lesson contains an overview, learning intentions, preparation tips, background notes that teachers may want to draw from when facilitating discussions, and step-by-step activities with handouts and links to videos, articles, and other resources to stimulate learning. So to take you through some of the next components, we're going to hear from Dr. Deanna Swift, who has been an enormous help as we've put together this resource and a great champion for us. And so I want to say thank you, and I want to hand it over to Deanna.
Great, thank you, Catherine. So I'm very pleased to share the new Stress Lessons Guide. We're excited that it's finally here. And I want to share with you why I think it's going to be a great resource for our school district. So what does the guide provide? First and foremost, it provides resiliency tools. It really is looking at a way to help our young people develop their strategies and understanding of stress. It really provides a tool that educators can talk to their students about stress. So it helps us focus our attention on building their resiliency. Too often, we may have teens who are shutting down when they feel overwhelmed, especially exam time, lots of homework and things, and they have a lot on their plate. They have a lot of extracurricular activities, and sometimes they may be finding someone and a resource to be able to help them mediate that. So we want them to be using their own inner strengths, their own tools for resiliency. This guide really gives an opportunity to explore those and have the adults in their life talk about them and help promote that resiliency. Health literacy is so important. It does touch all the areas of curriculum across our country. And health literacy in stress lessons is really for all. It's for all teens. It's good for all grades from 9 to 12. So the universal appeal to it is really great when you're looking for a tool to think about the wellness of your school environment, and in particular classes and how you're able to boost those skills. So that's exciting. It's exciting that it's going to be accessible for everyone. As was mentioned earlier, there are teacher resources and parent resources to help support that literacy level. There's lots of great tools you can do for parent conferences, information nights, things to include on your website or in your newsletters that can really help boost the health literacy of everyone involved. When we think about our schools and the environment, it's a great place to be talking to our young people about their levels of stress within the classroom, within the school day, within the building, and how they mediate some of those activities outside of school as well. So it's a natural place for us to be talking about stress with our young people. It's an opportunity for teachers to really dig deeper with their students about what is stressing them at school. What are they finding stressful in their program? So it's a great way for educators to learn more about what's on the teen's mind and where their pressure points are, and to help them work through some of that. So it does give the educators and the teens some time to reflect on their environment in their classroom, but also their whole school, and what ideas that they're learning in class can they really think about in terms of impacting their environment in the classroom and the rest of the school. So one example from a high school that was fortunate enough to pilot the stress lessons in the spring, the students really explored lots of different ways personally that they could manage their stress. But they also collectively thought of a way to better manage stress at school and set up a student lounge. So that's one great example where the students were able to find a space in the school and incorporate a lot of the ideas that they were able to think about managing stress in a way that the whole school could access. And they could promote that and share coping strategies and stress relievers with the rest of their peers. Finally, the activities in the program have been piloted. We've had lots of feedback from teachers and educators as well, which is great, and they're grounded in evidence-based cognitive behavioral strategies. So I'm really confident about the context of the program, and as Catherine mentioned, we'll be looking more and growing our evidence base for the program as well. But I do love the additional resources for parents and teachers as well that can help support those activities. So the program really does focus on developing 5 learning competencies in our young teens. And the first is around the signs and symptoms of stress. We really want them to understand what it is for themselves personally, physiologically, cognitively, their emotional response to stress, so they can understand and become aware of their own internal signs and symptoms and recognize when the stress is getting to be too much, or when the stress is giving them a little boost and helps them work a little bit better. That's the other piece. We want them to recognize both the positive and negative aspects of stress. Certainly the program is going to help build their awareness around stress in their life, thinking about their own personal stress levels and their own environments, their own schedules. We want them to be aware, and we also want them to be aware that they are their own agents and can help manage the stress in their life as well. So we want them to have an awareness that they can build resiliency. They do have some tools and things that they can harness as their internal resources to help with the stress of their life. And that goes to identifying the impact. We really want them to be understanding both the positive and negative effects of stress on them personally and also on those around them, their teachers, their parents, their peers as well, that everyone is impacted by stress at some point. And we want them to understand the long-term effects of chronic stress in their life and hopefully set up really good mental health literacy to help them be well and help them think about being proactive and promoting good health for their life. The program also focuses on coping and problem solving. So it's about identifying which ways they're going to help themselves cope in the situations that they find themselves in. Problem solving, really starting to recognize which parts they have control over in their life to be able to reduce stress, or which stresses they're just going to have to manage because those exams are not going away. Some of the demands on them are not something they can control or reduce to a great amount. So they're going to have to be resilient. They're going to have to find ways to manage the things that are on their plate and the responsibilities that they have. So we really want them to be cognitively thinking about how do they approach the aspects and stressors that they have, and to be able to really make some good decisions, try some strategies, and if that doesn't work, be resilient and try something else. So a good part of the program is really talking to them about how to think about stress and how they might approach it. And then finally, the program really is focusing on well-being, well-being for a lifetime. The teens have told us that have done this program, they wish they had it earlier. And some of our students will be lucky to start right from the kindergarten years all the way through. But for the teen years, they have special stressors that they are concerned about and they can talk about. And we really want them to be taking a proactive look at stress and be promoting their own well-being and their well-being and the mentally healthy environment of the school as well. So it's a great program. There's exciting lessons and activities to learn about. And I'm going to turn it back over to Anne now, who's going to go through the lessons for you step by step and tell you a little bit more about the content.
Okay, thanks so much, Deanna. And Catherine, for sharing all of that. So now we're going to get deeper into the resource and share with you some of the specifics that are there. And just to comment about this, the concepts, the thoughts are similar from our earlier years. Those of you who have been involved maybe from the preschool up to grade 9, you'll see lots of the same thoughts with many different activities that are more reflective of the developmental age and stage that our students in grade 9 to 12 are at. And what we love about it is that you can do it in the order that it is, or you may find there's certain parts that are better for you based on the situations that you're in within your school settings or with the people that you're working with. So what we want to do is model this place that you come with experience, you as participants within our webinar here. The focus, as we know, has been on stress. Stress is when the world gets to you, tries to tear you down, but a little bit is good, or else you wouldn't study. The truth from a grade 11 student. And we know that stress is helpful, but what we really want to do in our guide here is move us to that place of resilience. How can we move from stress to that place of resilience where I can cope, I can get through, and as Deanna talked about sort of the wellness throughout life, we want it to be that place that people can use this to help them throughout their life. So our lessons are divided into 6 lesson plans, and in them you'll find that there's lots of opportunities that you can use the different activities. Many activities are involved with each lesson. So I'm just going to walk us through a few ideas within each of the lessons so you can become familiar with it. Also keeping in mind that within each of the lessons there's a background. There's a format that Catherine shared with us that we start with the background, we move through with activities, there's some reflective activities at the end, plus other components to it. So looking at this lesson 1, the upside and downside of stress. So you can think of a teen in your own thoughts right now. Think of a teen that you know. What might they describe as the upside of stress for them? And certainly share it in your chat room if you want to, so that we can see what you see as what teens may describe as that upside. This is an opportunity that the young people can share what they see it as. Perhaps it can be done in small group activities. Perhaps it's within a whole classroom, but that place so that the young people can share from their perspective. This is what keeps it going with that constructivist approach, that teens come with their life experiences, they know themselves best, and that as teachers or adults in their life, we can encourage that conversation. So we've just heard a response that the upside can be it helps them with sports. Absolutely. And as we enter into the Olympics today and see how Canada performs, we can be sure that as those Olympics are ready to go through the gates or go down the hills or get on the ice, their stress is going to be a little high, and they're going to be focusing, and they're going to be having that positive talking to themselves so that they can perform the best they can. So lots can help them to get through to accomplish those goals, as Michelle has commented, and clarifying their priorities. So the positive and upside that can come. There's also the opportunity that it can be shared within the class. What are the downside of it? We're not going to get into that now just in the interest of time, but helping our young people identify it, and then the conversations that can come where some can say, oh, that's not an upside for me. It doesn't help me get through having the stress, but I find this helps. And so they can support each other, because we do know that peer-to-peer is a really positive time in these young people's lives, that they are looking more to that with their own age group. So moving now to lesson 2, this is really that science and art of stress. We know that the brain is where stress starts, with how our body perceives a situation, whether it's seen as being a worry, a fear, I can't get through, I'm feeling very vulnerable. But that brain really can be that inner pharmacy, that place that triggers the body to move to the stress response and the fight or flight. One thing that I love about the creation of this guide and all the work that went into it by the committee and people from all over the country, the resources that are available are abundant. Various organizations that have been using resources have tapped into this, and they've shared with us, and the links are in the guide so that you can just press on the link, which is the benefit of it as a downloadable guide because it's right there to connect on the websites. And so they've been used. So one of the ones that is used is this example of people that have been paid $35 to participate in this study and in this videoing of jumping off a 10-meter board over the pool. And they were asked to participate with the idea of agreeing to do this, and we don't know the outcomes of how many did agree and how many did participate and how many didn't. But the advantage of this can be is what was going through their thinking and their mind as they stood, as these two people are, at the top of this 10-meter board looking down at the water. So think of yourself. What would you have been thinking as you were at the top? Certainly share with us if you want on the webpage. Helpful to see what are your perspectives. You know, do you swim? Do you not swim? How is it for you? So what does standing at that place do? And I'm not doing this. That's a very clear no. Not sure if you got your $35 or not, but we're not part of that, and maybe $35 would not made it worth it. Not even go up there. So that place of, I'm going to take control. We know if we can take control of a situation, it helps to manage our stress, and not going up there is a good way to stop. I'm going to die. Well, I hope not. I hope that jumping off a 10-meter board, there's a deep end there that you're jumping into. But if my brain is saying, I'm not going to get through this and I'm going to die, that's your reality. And we know from all the work that's done in this area that perception is reality. Don't know how to swim. That's a big positive that needs to be in your skill base. So lots of ideas that come from it. And as you can see, people have responded with different ways. Yeehaw, there we go, Susan. She's excited to try this. So that place that it's energizing for people too. So lesson 2 allows our teenagers to look at it from how they would see it. Then you can have small group discussions. There are also opportunities within these lessons to look at that reflection. Okay, what is it for me? Somebody else sees it that I can do it and others can't. So I'm just looking down and someone saying, don't do it. Well, there's that reality of that mind telling you or somebody yelling at you, don't do it. So lesson 2 can provide lots of opportunity, lots of conversation. Another activity that's part of lesson 2 that may resonate for some people, as we know, certain people are great about the visuals as a video can be, others prefer the reflective thinking. And one of the activities can be consider an adult in your life, somebody who has experienced adversity, and how did they cope with this stress? What got them through it? And that might be some conversations. It sort of takes it away from the individual student feeling the pressure on them, but that chance to talk about somebody else. And then sharing those ideas, and maybe part of it could be a homework assignment to go and interview the person. So endless possibilities are available within the guide. So let's move on to lesson 3. Lesson 3 is a big section within the whole guide about my coping kits. And as we heard earlier, coping and finding those ways to cope through strategies to develop problem solving are really what we want our teenagers to be able to manage. Some things are not going to go away. It's not avoidable. Just as for us as adults, we have to deal with certain situations, whether it be snowstorms, whether it be heat, whether it be too much on our plate and technology, just as teenagers are having to with all that goes on. They're the wizards with technology. We have lots to learn from them, but we can also help them cope with a test will be over, what's the best you can do. So lesson 3 is finding those ways to cope. So one strategy is to think of a book or think of a character that's been part of your life. And I ask you to reflect on that and share it in our chat room if you want. What might be a book in your past? What might be a character that's in a book? So The Little Engine That Could, I had this as a favorite book of mine, and it was probably 50 or more years ago, not revealing ages, but I still have my book, The Little Engine That Could. Not that I'm a pack rat, but there are a few things, and that's been meaningful. I think I can, and that ability to get through. And sometimes it's within our brain that gives us something that we can cope with. So think of something for you that's helped you get through. Students will have it perhaps more recently in their younger years of what's helped them. Certainly that place of Franklin the turtle and how he got through with the darkness, that may be for some. Clifford the big red dog, a great one. Thanks, Karen, for that. So find what it is that's reflective for your thinking and helping. The Hunger Games, okay, Shona, there's another. So lots of opportunities. We're now going to go to something that's another activity that is part of this, just to give you a taste of what's there. So moving on to the next slide. This is available that you can download these memes. I've never heard of the term memes, but it's from the McCreary Center Society in British Columbia that has shared this with us. These are a number of pictures. They could be put up around the room. Students with that physical activity of walking around the room to stand in front of one that might fit for them. So I invite you, look at these pictures, take a moment and share through the chat room what letter best reflects for you how you have felt in a stressed moment. Hopefully it's not right this moment that you're feeling calm in your office and have your cup of coffee or having a relaxed time in your living room or enjoying the time with us. But think of a time maybe within the last 24 hours that was stressful for you. What might be a picture for you that describes it best? What letter might you suggest for you? I know when we started this a few weeks ago to do this webinar, I absolutely was at that sea. I have no idea what I'm doing, but thanks to the great team that we have here at the Psychology Foundation and supports around, we are feeling quite calm here in our office and Deanna in her place, and we're all connected. So let's look at some of these. So we have a variety, C's, D's, E's, lots of different ones that people have seen as where they best fit in. So that D seems to be a popular one. Oh, and there's an A, that little chipmunk or whatever it is, a hamster. Maybe it's not been fed, but so a variety. And this, again, allows the opportunity for our students to talk about. Maybe they group together and they see who's sharing that. And then maybe they mix it up a bit and the A's and B's connect and the D's and C's connect so that they can see where they are. And that dear dog, I'm done, carry me. So there's a few of that. You've had a rough week. We are only Thursday, but we will be at Friday, and hopefully it's a relaxing weekend for you. So this can be used in a variety of ways. Again, as teachers, as people, as adults involved in their life, you don't need to have all the answers, and you too can express where you are, because that just humanizes it with that connection and that relationship piece, which we know is so vital with our adults and our young people, that there is that relationship and there is that support that's felt. Moving on to our next slide, the knapsack is very familiar to many of us, and it's a resource that can be a conversation, that can be perhaps a reflective time, looking at, what activities have taken place in this lesson 3, and maybe what people would use and what they would put and fill in their knapsack. It might be different for us as adults than it is for our students, but just that phone, probably for many, for all of us, is that place we need it. It's our contact with the world. It's our music. It's our place that we can find some calm. It just feels us connected as we can send out a text or a Twitter or all those different things that are my stressor, but those of you who know them all, certainly our teenagers do. So there'll be lots of chance to connect. I've just seen Susan, that the teens and teachers and students will be connecting through laughter, which is such an important one. That place of what those memes could do of just laughing at it. We know that humor is a wonderful way to reduce our stress. So moving on now to our next session, lesson 4. Lesson 4 is a chance to reframe, a term that probably we've all heard of, but becomes so important as we move forward, as we look at that place that we now have a better understanding of what stress is, how we respond to it, perhaps from that diving board, what strategies we've learned about how we cope, how we look. But now, how do we take that forward? That place of reframing our thinking. And this is one is, what do you do speaking in front of a class? People will have different responses to it. But this is a link, again, in our guide that allows us to connect with an organization that has done this, has training in this. So you don't need to come up and be creative. It's right there for you. So seeing how peers can share how they respond, whether it's that I'm so nervous, I'm not going to be able to do this, or they're on the right side, I'm feeling really confident and I can get through this. And that difference of perspective, the same situation speaking in front of class, but people respond differently, and that's okay. And that's what we're trying to build, is that self-awareness, that individuals can feel it from their perspective, and it's okay. It's all individualized, that one feels stress in one situation, another feels it in another. But with peers at this age in life, their peer support, their sharing with one another can be vital to help them understand, what do you mean you're going to be nervous? Hey, this is going to be really energizing, and perhaps learning from each other. So moving to lesson 5, this is where we really move to that place of resiliency, that ability to cope, that ability to survive, to thrive, to get through. And that's what's going to give us those opportunities in terms of moving on in life, that I can do it. Because we know the only place to get to be resilient is to have experienced some stress, to have gotten through it, to experience that adversity and be able to come to the other side. I can cope. I can get through. I am okay. So lesson 5 allows us to really focus on that resiliency. So what I'd like you to do is think of someone who has survived, who has overcome diversity. What are some of the strategies they used to manage in that situation? We've drawn on it from us as adults. It might be you as an adult. What got you through some difficult times in your life? I know when I faced some health concerns in my family, certainly it was about relationships. They got me through. Friends were there with me. They listened. They were non-judgmental. They were that place that were very helpful to get through. So what's gotten you through? Certainly we're hearing family and friends. That relationship piece is key. And that's coming out more and more in the research, that place of connecting with others. That strong attachment in community, that we need people. Others may find that it's getting some activity, getting some exercise that gets them through. My own beliefs, thanks Lisa, in myself, that place that I'm okay, I can get through, I've done this before, there will be a time. Trust us, some of us sitting here in front of these cameras felt, okay, we'll get through, it's okay. And we've got friends out there that we can't see, you as participants, but as these names pop up, it's comforting to say, I know you. So thank you. Those skills, yes, thanks Kim, that place of skills and learning, what do we need? And so our teens are in a place that they can learn new opportunities. So moving into our last lesson, lesson 6, if we can move to that slide called the Stress Conference. So those of you who have been involved in our grades 7 to 9, from stressed out to chilled out, will know about the Stress Fair. The Stress Conference is a different perspective built on the same ideas that our young people love to choose things. They can own it. They can find their passion. So here are just a few topics that are within the guide. It's endless. The students themselves, the teachers themselves may come up with other ideas, but they can then identify what they want to work on. Perhaps it's part of a marked perspective or part within their class and homework. Perhaps it's not. But that's where there's freedom within the guide to do as you want, but just some further ideas that enhance the learning. So that sort of finishes the 6 lessons. This lesson 6 can be part of the other ones. But now we're going to go to the Counselors and Administrators resource. And it provides opportunities for that one-on-one or for that small group place that we can get into more details. So what might those be? There's lots of links in the resources in the guide that you can do, looking at that way to provide support. We know that peer-to-peer, that gift of listening, and that includes us as counselors listening to our young people and what is it that really they might be able to solve from their own perspective, and we're just there as a non-judgmental, empathetic person. And there is a link to a video called The Gift of Listening. This can be a great one for our young people as they're supporting others in that place of hearing them. So now we're going to move to the infographics. We're really excited about this. It's an opportunity that has been created with the use of the visual. So we know that visuals can be helpful. We can put them on our phone. You can have it there. It could be a one-to-one opportunity. It can be printed off for our young people to use it for themselves. It's also a great one for us as adults. And the nice thing really, it's about any age. It's non-specific. It really brings in those concepts of identifying stress and then moving through to that problem solving of what I can do about it. So what can you do about it when you feel stressed? Well, certainly, am I stressed out? Yes or no. That gives that ownership, and it gets that brain thinking that that prefrontal cortex is involved to have to move away from that limbic system where we get hijacked and feeling stressed. We now have to think about it. We can think, am I? And then if I am, what can I do? I can take some deep breaths. I can find some relaxation. I can own some of this. And then moving to, can I reduce the stress? Or what can I do to cope with it? I do have to write that exam. I can't just kind of walk away from it. What have I used before? Is it about doing some deep breathing? Is it about thinking of that happy place I can go to? Is it about talking to somebody beforehand so I get more support? But having these opportunities to think it through before actually getting in the moment of the stressor can be those ways to coping with stress. So this has a link in the guide that you can go to, that you can save it on your computer, you can print it off, you can use it in whatever capacity works for you. So now we want to move to the parent and caregiver resource, which is our last section, certainly not least. We know that parents are a huge part of the support and the life that our young people are involved with. We know too that our parents can be involved in stressful situations for themselves. But we also know that parents only have a few chances to go through the teenage years, depending on how many children they have. And that's where educators are such a fabulous support to listen, to understand, because you've had experience of going through it hundreds of times in a high school with all the different young people. So this resource gives you an opportunity to share with the parents, and sometimes it may be helping parents to reduce their stress and to recognize what it is. So that place that we know if parents are involved, it helps our children more likely to succeed. So we have tip sheets that are available that can be printed off, that can be downloaded. The first one is really looking at stress. Is my child stressed? It covers some examples of signs and symptoms. It helps to identify what may be going on with your child, what might be happening. So often we see the behavior, but what's behind that behavior, that need to be a detective to figure it out, and supporting parents to see that teenagers aren't born with that desire to have bad behavior. They're going through so many changes, that change of those goals that they haven't read the textbook, but they have to push parents away. They have to figure out what they want to do through high school. And after, they have to find what are the relationships, who they are, and lots going on. So this is an opportunity for parents to just put stress in perspective. Number two is helping your children with the stress. What can you do? What are some coping strategies? How can you relax? How is it that a child finds themselves when they are in a place of less stress, and being more aware of that? Tip sheet number 3 is really that 101, being aware of it, finding out what else is going on, that opportunity to have a positive relationship, to listen, who else might be in their life, what might be some physical activities that they can do, what is important to them, what do they want to own, what is their problem, and how can they help to solve that teenage-sized problem. So now moving on, what are some of the resources that, in addition to the tip sheets, if we can go to the next slide, and it shows us what's available on our resource. So I encourage you to go to our psychologyfoundation.org. The resource section has lots of information. These are just a few of them. So on our right is a booklet, Straight Talk About Teens, downloadable for free, or you can purchase it for $2, a great bargain. It can be ordered through our website, and it can be mailed to you. Shipping costs are on top of that, but it has lots of information that is geared to parents, but also can be helpful for educators in the parent's life. In the middle, that's our guide that you can download for $25, except for those of you who are participating today. It's available for you that you're going to be given a link. And on the left are stress strategies. This is an opportunity as adults to go to looking at your stress, identifying it, and what might be some strategies that you want to do that are an important part of that. We know that there's many other opportunities within our resources. We have Struggle to Juggle, which is related to the workplace environment. We know that schools are our workplace. It's more information that can be available. Some of our parents with children in grade 9 to 12 might have younger children that are preteens. We have a great downloadable link within the resource section about preteens, whether it be discipline, whether it be developing friendships, and it's in many different languages. So that can be a great resource that you can go to. Oh, and the other thing we have a newsletter called Every Mind Matters, and there's lots of parent links there that you can go to that can help our teenagers. So, continuing to move on, we're almost at the Q&A. We cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build the youth for our future. And that's where we are so grateful for all of you who are participating and all the worlds that you'll touch of your communities to help our youth develop that place and move from the stress to move to that place of resilience, because that's what they need. We can't take some of this stress necessarily away with all the technology and all that pressure in terms of performance and school and teenagers and all that's in their life, but we can give them the resources to help them figure it out. So now we want to turn it over to you for our question and answer. What we're going to do is bring back Deanna and Catherine. I would like to mention to you online, we do have frequently asked questions. It's available on our Psychology Foundation website, and it's available for you to read through. But if we can't get to all your questions today, please do send it to info. Our next slide, why don't we put our next slide up so it's there where you can send any questions or that we haven't addressed, or if you have other comments of how we can best support you. Because now that the guide's available, we do know that one of the questions is, do I need training? And this guide has been developed so that training is not necessary. You can use the guide, you can walk into the classroom and use it. But what we have found in the development of our earlier guides from preschool to grade 9, people really do appreciate the presentations that may be 2 hours in length. We may do half days, we may do full days. That really gives them comfort about digging deeper into this and practicing some of it. So where we are able, with the capacity of trainers, we can offer that. We also are looking at webinars, whether that's a potential way so that people can learn more about our resources. So we welcome your feedback and comments. But please now send us any questions that you might have.
Okay, Anne, sorry, and I know that this is Anne Lupro. I will be echoing, so I apologize. I'm going to get out as soon as possible. There's a couple of questions, and I'm not sure who's the best person to answer. The first one is about curriculum links. So Catherine, if you could, I think you're the best person to answer that. The second is about whether or not the infographic is available in a poster. And the third is the usage and the fee associated with the download. So I'm going to throw that out to the panel and then get myself off the microphone so we don't echo anymore.
I've talked lots. Catherine, do you want to take some of those on? And I can jump in, or Deanna?
Hi. Michelle, I'm going to address your question first about can you give us an idea about the parameters around sharing your downloaded copy with the schools that you work with? That's a great question, and thank you for that. We would encourage everyone to purchase a copy because we are a small not-for-profit and we need to cover some of our costs. The resource was developed in collaboration with leading child, adolescent, and school psychologists, as well as educational administrators, counselors, teachers. We are charging for a download to help us cover some of our costs in developing this resource and hopefully to ensure that we can keep producing more evidence-based resources of this nature and continue to provide those kinds of resources and support to the community. So we are encouraging as much as possible school boards to buy individual copies as much as possible. So while we encourage sharing and uptake, we also encourage the community to support our work in an ongoing way. So that is what, in curriculum links, we do have, we encourage, again, the community to help us with, as much as possible, with articulating specific curriculum links. We have, for example, had people call in and say that they've found great links with, for example, in Ontario, grade 12 business course. We might not have necessarily come up with that ourselves, but creative educators and partners working in the schools have come up with a wonderful range of opportunities to make the links between the resources and the curriculum requirements for different courses. There are obvious links with many of the health and well-being related courses, but there are also links with anything from drama to anthropology and psychology and sociology, a lot of the social sciences, as well as English, many other courses that creative and committed educators are going to see those right away. And we have also emphasized how flexible the guide is, and so that there isn't a requirement that every single lesson be taught or be explored, and not necessarily in the same order that we have them listed in the guide. There's a lot of opportunity for creativity and flexibility in using the material. But there are curriculum links that are available on our website for you to look at, and Cindy worked very hard. Cindy Andrew, our colleague out west, worked very hard to come up with as many of those links as possible, given the changing nature of the curriculum. Okay, I'm looking at some of the other questions. How much does it cost for a school board to purchase? We're going to have to get back to you on that question in terms of perhaps a bulk order, but we will definitely thank you for that question, and we would like to come up with a really solid answer for you, so we'll get back to you on that. PowerPoint.
Thanks, Lisa. Great question. In terms of is there a PowerPoint specifically for training on this resource? So this was our first launch of sharing with all of you that have had more familiarity with, or most of you have had more familiarity with our resources from younger years. We recognize some of you this may be your first time that you've seen it. So we welcome input about developing a training. So what we would like to do is look at doing something more in terms of a webinar, so people who have not had the same background will be able to have that kind of training, and we can offer a webinar. But to the point about training beyond, that's what we would really love, because we see you as champions in your communities, and we know that there's lots to be gained from the face-to-face, from the interactive, from the opportunities. And so that too will be a place that we would like to have champions in school boards or champions within geographical areas that want to take this on. So please do get in touch with us, and collectively we can make this happen. We have lots of energy around it through all our programs, and it's a good place to be, that we're feeling a little overwhelmed with how much there is. And so it's the relationships that we have with many of you that will help us take it further. And so PowerPoints and being able to take it out to your communities is absolutely what we want, and we will develop those PowerPoints so that you can take it, but would like to have some background opportunities with those people who are taking it out, so there can be trying to keep the efficacy of the program as much as we can. I hope that answered that. There was a question, I think we addressed it, but we'll have to look at costs for school boards. Other questions? Have we missed any? Anybody see any? Infographic, sorry, what's that? As a poster. Certainly that's something we could look at. We do that with our stoplight in our younger years, and it's been very helpful. So that idea of an infographic that's a poster that could be purchased. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Other questions? Post-secondary, sorry, there was a question on that. Great comment. We know there's need for it. I think right now we have to kind of ground ourselves on the 9 to 12 and that solidifying it of the whole school experience. But if there's a need for post-secondary, I don't think we're saying no to things, but I think right now we have to share what we can about the 9 to 12, and the committee that's worked so hard to pull this guide together probably needs a bit of a break.
I just wanted to mention, Anne, that the Stress Strategies program online at psychologyfoundation.org is a great resource. It's great for adults, but it's also great for those later teens and probably university students. So if you were working counseling one-on-one, or you were working with a group of young folks trying to adjust to university or feeling overwhelmed at university, I think that's a great online resource that would be really helpful.
There's been a question about whether this webinar with the slides, this will be available. It has been taped. It will be available on our resource, in our resources on the website. Other questions and comments? I see we have just a couple of minutes left. Certainly there's been, we have the frequently asked. Let me just see if there's any that might be helpful. The resource cost is $25 for a download, $35 for the hard copy. There's been a question whether there's similar resources out there. There's certainly lots of resources out there. We are well aware of that. What we feel this resource offers is quite a cross-reference to many different ways, whether it be the mind, whether it be the problem solving, the coping strategies. So that's where it builds on, the successful track record that we've done in the earlier ones, and looking at the recognition of signs and symptoms, what can we do about it, the ways to relax, listening to our emotions can be there. So if we seem to have exhausted all the questions, have we missed any?
I think there was a question around the brain's response to stress and sort of the physiology of stress, and that's certainly covered under Lesson 2, the science of stress. It does go into conversation and learning that you can have with your students around central nervous system responses, automatic flight or flight response. And that's certainly an area that students can go much deeper in when they do their stress conference as well.
So to wrap up, we certainly want to thank all of you for the champions that you will be as you now take this back to your school environments. We do welcome you, please, to be in touch if we can support you in any way. I do recall there was a question about school boards and have they been informed about our resource. We have gone widely in terms of our marketing of this resource, but those of you who are in school boards and want to promote it, please do. And we are going to have some conversations about school boards being able to have a better rate at downloading or hard copies. We have been told that teachers love the hard copies, but as we mentioned, one of the advantages of the download is that you then have the direct links. So thank you for all of your input that we have yet to see, but also all your comments as you've been part of this. When you, what we now ask you to do, maybe I can turn it over to Anne, the process about getting your free download.
Thank you, Anne. So we will be following. Thank you, Anne. So we will be following up with an email that will give you instructions on your download. For some of those who have entered the room as a guest and you had a bit of an obscure name that may not match the name of your email address in which we sent the information to, if you could just so kindly let us know who you are, because again, we're just sort of cross-referencing for those who have come to this webinar with a follow-up email. But thank you very much. I believe we answered most of the questions, but we'll go through the questions again and sift through, and if we haven't, we will certainly follow up with an email on that. Thank you.
Have a less stressed afternoon.